that gave me a lot of energy also, right? And see that, okay, what kind of innovations people are doing with the usage of AI. So yeah, I'm currently working at Microsoft. I am part of Copilot engineering team, and Copilot is a leading AI product from Microsoft for all its enterprise customers. So I am also, seeing many of these use cases, and we are also trying to solve many of these use cases at enterprise level through the usage of our product. So today, actually, I'm here to share some of the learnings, and also here to talk about like how should we embrace AI, and how enterprises as well as startups should be thinking about AI in their journey. So I'll share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it has appeared. Inflection point.
Okay, I am not able to. Okay, just a second. I'll quickly. Great. So this is, at a very high level, I'll be covering today. Um, Basically, at a very high level, 6 themes. So let's talk about the inflection point first, right? So currently, we are in a very exciting space. A lot of innovation is happening in AI, and especially, the big shift is happening on the AI workloads since cloud, right? So if we talk about only AI SaaS market in enterprise domain, it's going to be about $30 billion market in 2026, and it is actually expected to reach somewhere close to 360 at approximately 400 billion by 2034, right? Which is like a 12x expansion in a time span of just 8 years, right? If you look at the stats, most of the CEOs, like 46% of the CIOs are ready to replace their vendors with the AI native alternatives. And as per Gartner report, uh, 80% of the enterprise apps are going to be using AI agents or embedding AI agents in one way or the other. And 74% companies are already planning agentic AI within next 2 years as per Deloitte. So overall, we are seeing a very fast shift towards enterprises adopting AI and, trying to bring AI into their ecosystem as fast as they can. So let's talk about the enterprise AI stack, like, how exactly the AI stack looks like in enterprises. So at a very high level, there are like four pillars in this. So we have data and infrastructure layer because AI needs context, and enterprises are building vector stores, knowledge graphs, and graph rags, to be able to power this. Then there are foundational models, which we call it as state-of-the-art models like GPT-4, GPT 5.5, Claude models, and Gemini models from Google. Then on top of that, we have small language models like Pi series models from Microsoft, Mistral, Llama. These are very domain specific and cost efficient models because they can run on small devices having low number of GPUs. And then, we have agentic AI layer on top of it, which actually, talks to these models and is able to solve the use case or the autonomous workflows that the enterprises are working on. So basically, right, when we're building such systems, all of us, have been seeing one problem, right? That first of all, many of the AI projects or the agentic workflows that the enterprises are building, they are mostly dying in the POC space, right? They are not able to see the light of the production. And even if, let's say, small or a small percentage of projects are able to see the light of the production, they are actually bitten by a lot of token burns and token usage. Um, if you would have read about Uber's CTO, they actually ended up spending their entire AI budget in just 1 quarter, right? Which was a huge budget, uh, all because of lot of amount of tokens, and the company didn't anticipate that, okay, they might end up burning this much, right? So I think one strategic choice now most of the enterprises should be following is that what are the use cases, which could be SLMs or small language models specific, and what are the use cases for which, they need to use LLMs, right? So there are multiple dimensions on which you can decide. See, LLMs, predominantly large language models, are very good for complex multi-reasoning use cases, and they actually able to provide you multi-domain insights. But if your use cases are very domain specific, right, then SLMs, are very good for that particular use case. And the beauty is that okay, you can actually train SLMs to be as effective as LLMs, right? Deployment cost, if we talk about LLMs, they require much higher cloud and GPU capacity, so their deployment costs are higher. But again, SLMs, since they're smaller in sizes, they can actually easily be deployed on the edge and on-prem as well, which actually brings data sovereignty also, which is a very big requirement from many enterprises, especially in finance domain, healthcare domain, and many other regulated industries. If you talk about cost, LLMs in terms of 1 million token conversation, you know, they roughly cost per month to be about $15,000 to $75,000, which is where, companies are burning a lot of money and, seeing that, okay, they are not able to catch up with their budgets. But again, SLMs, on the contrary, are, very low cost devices, and they should be, they are able to be deployed on small devices, and their deployment costs are very, very low. And data sovereignty also, if you are actually working with LLMs, data leaves the network. But again, obviously, there are solutions in which you could actually deploy LLMs in your own data centers, but again, they're very difficult to manage. SLMs on the other side, data stays on the premise, and they're very domain specific use cases for that, right? And as per the market research, also SLMs beat GPT-4, in 85% of classification tasks, which actually also proves that there is a lot of value in using SLMs and fine tuning them on the domain specific tasks and the data, and it actually also helps you create a moat for your organization. So what I think we should be doing, or the enterprises should be doing, is that okay, they should be thinking about hybrid model. Model built only on LLMs is good for POCs purposes, or good for validation of ideas. But again, once you start scaling, the hybrid SLM plus LLM approach is not optional, right? And 70 to 80% of the enterprise use cases can easily fit on SLM or hybrid approaches, right? So if you are actually trying to solve any use case, around 70 to 80% of the use cases could easily be solved through SLMs, and remaining 20% of the use cases can be routed to LLMs using complex classifier scores. And this can actually help save a lot of cost reduction. It can easily save up to 1500x cost reduction with intelligent hybrid routing compared to LLM only deployments. So as I mentioned, right, in enterprise SaaS, there are multiple innovation use cases. Customer operation is one big use case. Sales and revenue also has its use case. Supply chain, financial operations, IT security, HR and talent. So we can definitely, power many of these use cases in enterprise using LLMs. But again, I think the point that I want to land here is that how we can actually solve these use cases by actually achieving 30 to 50% workload reduction, and also saving in token and deployment cost, which I just now mentioned about. So this is kind of a breakthrough year, as we have already been seeing. We never used to talk about agents, but again in 2026, all of us are talking about multi-agentic systems, multi-agentic orchestration platforms. Claude also launched, multi-agentic platform very recently. Microsoft also launched the same. OpenAI is also launched their multi-agent system. So everywhere, wherever we are talking about, and even in today's presentations also, there were a lot of talk about multi-agentic systems and how actually they are able to power innovation, right? So basically, there is no doubts that okay, 2026 is the breakthrough year in terms of multi-agentic systems, and so that actually also makes a very important point that how do we kind of bring small language models or SLMs into this breakthrough, and not make our agents rely predominantly on LLMs, right? And there are multiple use cases for that, right? For example, most of the research use cases can easily be solved through SLMs. because they can be trained on the data and their queries. And these are well-defined retrieval tasks which an SLM can easily do. Even workflow automations can easily be uh, accomplished using small language models. Reasoning is the only thing where we actually still need LLMs. But again, based upon my experience, building in Microsoft for the last 5 years and 3 years in Copilot, I have not seen that every use case actually requires complex analysis and planning. There are hardly 10 to 20% of the use cases which might need that, and 80% is all about decision making, executing very defined workflows for which we don't need LLMs at all. Similarly, validation in terms of compliance, security, privacy, these are all the very important tasks which most of the enterprises and even startups should be focusing on. And we don't need LLMs for the same, because these are predominantly SOP based or rule based verifications, and SLMs can easily be used for the same. Similarly, for the reporting, right? I have seen that multiple enterprises are actually using state of the art models like Claude Opus 4.7 or GPT 5.5 for summarizing their dashboards, right? Again, right, there we can save a lot of costs and tokens by using SLMs, because these summaries and dashboard creations are very very defined tasks. They are template driven and they can easily be uh, achieved through SLMs if you have trained them. So, what exactly are the various research frontiers for enterprises to innovate, right? So, I think for any agentic system to work, right, first thing is the data layer. How exactly you actually um fetch the data, which is very very relevant for a particular agent to work correctly, right? So, there has been a lot of advancement in this space already, and I think that enterprises or the startups, they should invest actually into a very good retrieval augmented generation workflows, for their organizations. And GraphRag, has been one of the best solutions that even I have been using, for the product engineering in at my work as well. And it actually provides beautiful and very factually correct and semantically correct execution results on the database, once let's say you have created this infrastructure layer. Second thing is, we need to have agentic fine tuning. What I've realized is that multiple enterprises are focusing on solving the use case, but they are not able to focus on the fact that if they are able to fine tune their agentic workflows, they would be able to make use of SLM, small language models, in multiple of the domains instead of relying on LLMs. So I think agentic fine tuning is another area which is very very important uh, in this space, so that we can actually avoid lot of tokens burning and overages of um, LLM models and cost shooting through the roofs. Similarly, right now we also need to see how we can actually build a confidence cascading, right? So there has to be a system which is actually able to intelligently route the requests, that okay, whether the request should be going to SLMs or if for any complex use case it should be escalated to LLM. But again, the split should always, that should be targeted, is about 80-20 rule. 80% of the request should get served through SLMs. And again, there are already proven research and research papers available in the market. Even I have also done some research on this, and it is actually not a complex system to build. But again, many times enterprises or startups in their pursuit to launch and figure out a product market fit, which is a good idea to start with. But again, once they start scaling, they should actually definitely spend time on this particular infrastructure. Speculative decoding again is very similar to confidence cascading, but again, how do SLMs draft responses, and how do LLMs verify? Because again, if you want to have some checks around that, even that also can reduce a lot of cost, because if LLMs have to produce something from the scratch, they'll actually end up burning more tokens. But again, if they just have to validate something, that will not take as much tokens as the initial drafting. And then memory systems is again very, very important, because LLMs by default are stateless. So if let's say you are conversating with a lot of LLMs or a lot of agents across multi-agentic workflows or multi-agentic orchestration workflows, what decisions have been made, what research was done. So on that particular perspective, it is very, very important for any organization to actually have these memory systems so that they are able to make use of the already done research and save a lot of cost. At the end of the session, I can also point to one of the projects that I've open sourced. It actually allows you to have a memory across multiple sessions, and save a lot of token usage in your agentic workflows. The other thing right now, which also we need to understand, and these are the pitfalls which I call, six risk categories in agentic AI. So 92% of the businesses experience cost overrun with agentic AI, and that is just the beginning, right? And apart from that, the other things are, compliance and legal. Existing laws actually apply to agents as well, right? Consumer privacy regulations, industry specific mandates. So all the agentic workflows, should be actually built considering compliance and legal, even governance gaps also. Only 31% have measurement frameworks, as per the market research of all the agentic systems, deployed worldwide in AI enterprise SaaS. Autonomous decisions without oversight, so that can also actually, cause a lot of, compliance issues within the organizations and startups, and can also, definitely end up increasing the higher cost. Privacy exposure is another risk, because, when we are building multi-agentic autonomous systems, right, we need to ensure that, the data is not exposed to the risks and the hacks and the risk factors. So that is very, very important, to ensure when we are building the systems. Security vulnerabilities are, again, a very, very important aspect that we need to see, because prompt injection and multiple other security issues do exist when we are actually building multi-agentic systems. Um, Token cost explosions, again, we need to keep a strict check on the overruns and retries and everything when we are building multi-agentic systems. Otherwise, we can actually end up burning a lot of tokens, and tokens in this era are like diamonds, right? So they are very precious. And budget overruns are happening due to all these issues. 40 percentage plus pilots are at the risk of cancellation as per Gartner by 2027, because companies were not able to anticipate the overages and higher usage of tokens for their workflows. So that even becomes more and more important, for enterprises to focus on this. These are some of the same compliance, governance, and security concerns which I have just now mentioned about. So I'll just quickly skip. So token economics and budget reality checks are very, very important. So as I mentioned, orchestration overhead between the agents is very high. This actually is about 80% of other total cost of ownership that generally enterprises are burning or startups are burning on their systems. Retry loops and error recovery, context window management, and token waste, right? Because as you are trying to save everything in the same context window and the same system prompt, it actually bloats the prompt, and then that is where you actually end up burning a lot of tokens without actually getting minimalistic returns on that particular usage. Monitoring, observability, and logging infrastructure is lagging in multiple organizations, wherein they are not able to track how exactly are the tokens being used across their systems. So again, building such sophisticated systems is very, very important. And there are already available solutions in the market which are open sourced. But again, these need to be thought first, when you're scaling. And when, these multi-agents are actually, interacting with each other, it can actually create a snowball effect, and can actually help, can actually end up burning a lot of tokens and increase cost overall. So yeah, this is what I'm recommending as a playbook strategy. Right, there are six strategies. Like first of all, if you're scaling, you should be actually opting for a hybrid model. Don't actually rely only on LLMs, because LLMs are not meant for routine queries and routine tasks. Try to limit that to only 5 to 10% of complex reasoning. It can actually provide a lot of cost reduction. Similarly, try to have an infrastructure hybrid on premises, for sensitive data, and we can always use cloud for burst capacity, and any other use cases which actually require cloud. We should have a very strong, governance which can actually track, all the automated compliances, for standard workflows, and we can always have humans in the loop for high stake decisions. Similarly, we can have cost hybrid, like we can have hard coded budget ceilings, in the multi-agentic workflows that we are building, so that as I mentioned in the earlier slide, retries and multi-agentic orchestrations don't actually end up burning your tokens without actually giving you any returns. We can also have data hybrid, wherein there could be sensitive layers, and tiers of layers. That sensitive data should be on the local networks, and non-sensitive data can actually leverage cloud scale infrastructure that actually makes the systems more sovereign as well. And last but not the least, pricing hybrid, wherein um, the model can be flat fee based, predictable with outcome based upside, instead of a seat based model, so that enterprises and startups are able to actually gain customer trust first, and then they're able to bet on the growth alignment. So this is how like a typical hybrid architecture blueprint that I'm proposing looks like. You should have an intelligence routing layer which should be able to route either through edge or either through cloud, and there should be a separate data layer which actually should be based on graph, RAG, vector stores, or knowledge graphs, whichever suits best for your use case. And then there has to be a very strong governance layer which actually is able to track all the audits, compliance checks, budget controls, RBACs, and rate limits, so that your multi-agentic systems are not going rogue and not burning tokens without your knowledge. Uh, this is again a new pricing reality which is emerging. Seat-based traditional policies are declining, and it is supposed to it is going to decline by 35% to 35% by 2030, because now with multi-agents coming into the picture, more and more enterprises are actually going to use outcome based pricing than seat based pricing. So basically, if you are kind of building any solution in this particular space, you should also be kind of thinking how you can move from seat based pricing to outcome based pricing, because it is rising, and it will rise by almost like 20% as per the market research by 2030. And Salesforce, uh, as I've mentioned in this slide, has already shared agentic enterprise licensing agreement for all its customers, whosoever are using Salesforce, whoever are going to use actually Salesforce agentic systems for their use cases. So yeah, this is what my recommendation. So what enterprises and founders should be building for tomorrow. First is vertical AI. Solve for the last mile. And when I say vertical AI, it's about instead of relying on LLMs, try to build a moat by training your SLMs, so that it is actually able to save a lot of cost for you. Build a moat with proprietary data. So if you are building for a particular use case, try to have that as a proprietary data, and train your models on that, so that even the cost of shifting from your solution is very, very high for any particular customer. Establish trust using audit logs, SSOs, RBACs, and multiple compliances that you can bake in, so that customers are able to trust you. And obviously, last but not the least, production reliability. Is your system 99% plus uptime, and is it able to kind of consistently work even with the increasing workloads? So yeah, this is in a nutshell how the decision framework should look like. Strength should be your own proprietary data, uptime, and compliance from day one. Opportunities are how you can actually create a vertical last mile gap which is existing in the market, and make it as a moat for you. Weakness is if you'll continue to rely on single models, or if your solutions are predominantly prompt based solutions, because sooner or later they are going to be replaced by state-of-the-art models like Claude or GPT, because models in themselves are becoming more and more intelligent. And threats are escalating token costs as more and more agentic systems are coming into the market. So how do you kind of solve that already with the increasing demand? So yeah, build with these particular principles, so which will be deliverable. Otherwise, I don't know if you are 10 AI wrappers over APIs, or if you are going to use seat-based pricing for AI features, or if you are going to have only single model dependency strategy, you might face challenges in future. So the time is now to start looking into all these durables and start building an infrastructure accordingly. So yeah, this is kind of a recommendation from my side, that foundation phase is now. Then comes the scale phase where you can plan for next 6 to 12 months or even sooner than that, where you have multi-grade, multi-agentic system, production grade system which is compliant, and then start thinking about moat as well. Because if you don't have a proprietary data flywheel in motion, if you don't have a moat in terms of your own proprietary models which are actually able to run at very low costs, there is a very high chance that state-of-the-art models can easily replace that use case. So yeah, key takeaways is that hybrid is going to become standard. Governance is going to be very, very foundational. And it is still foundational. And with agentic AI coming into the picture, agents becoming more and more autonomous, governance will become the first class citizen. Cost conscious by design is again, a choice which everyone should be making, and trying to see how SLMs or small language models can be used to reduce that cost. And vertical always beats horizontal, which essentially means the same thing, that uh, how exactly you are actually building your use case around uh, proprietary data models and not trusting LLMs, and how exactly you're able to win trust by actually incorporating um, auditing, RBAC, production reliability, and privacy and multiple other compliances which are very region specific. Yeah, with that, thank you. If you would want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer anything. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank